Wei Wei is a young woman with a unique ability to create magical moments from love. Since birth, the bioelectric energy in her body has been unusually high. Whenever her heart rate exceeds 110 beats per minute, she emits electricity like Pikachu. This unusual power doesn't cause harm. Instead, it makes anyone she touches fall in love with the first person they see. However, this sudden infatuation lasts only for 24 hours. Beyond this strange ability, her electricity often brings unexpected troubles, especially on rainy days. Wei Wei has a close friend named Doxy who recently confessed that she has a crush on a boy from the school swimming team, Sichong. Sichong always takes first place in every swimming competition. Handsome and confident, he firmly believes in staying single, declaring that he would only ever date competitors. Convinced that Sichong could be her last love, Doxy asks Wei Wei to use her electricity to make him fall for her at first sight. Not long after, Wei Wei went to meet her homeroom teacher, Mei, to request an early transfer. Wei Wei had applied for the sports management program, but was short by just 1 point, and her teacher refused, citing school regulations. As Wei Wei tried to open the door to follow her teacher, she accidentally touched Sichong's hand. Both of them struggled to get the other to open the door, and their friend Ding Yi, standing nearby, had to step in to help. Wei Wei blocked Sichong and asked if he was the one who had bumped into her outside the library. Sichong, noticing the girl in front of his umbrella, misunderstood and thought Wei Wei was apologizing, so he accepted her apology. Wei Wei turned to scold him for imagining things, only to be suddenly pushed against Sichong by someone else. Hearing their friends cheer, Wei Wei quickly ran out of the classroom. Back at the dormitory, she sighed over failing to convince her teacher. She also worried that she might accidentally shock someone while giving a massage. Doxy agreed to study on behalf of her best friend, but in return, Wei Wei had to help her win over the boy she liked. At the swimming team, Wei Wei introduced herself as a student from the rehabilitation class. She admitted that her skills were a bit lacking and came to borrow a practice partner. Coach Yuni called Sichong to assist her. He was surprised to see Wei Wei appearing wherever he went. Noticing her excitement at touching him, Sichong immediately tried to avoid her and warned her to stay away. Unfortunately, he slipped and fell into the water, which only made him angrier. Sichong insisted that he didn't like Wei Wei and advised her to pursue her crush more rationally. Doxy asked to interview him for a few extra questions to buy Wei Wei time to use her electricity on Sichong. At that moment, Wei Wei spotted a familiar figure and completely forgot about her task. After her first attempt failed, Wei Wei decided to send Sichong a friend request and arrange a meeting to apologize in person. Unexpectedly, Sichong rejected it and even blocked Wei Wei on WeChat. Afterwards, Wei Wei had to keep track of Sichong. When she noticed him heading to the archives room, she quickly called her best friend for help, but Doxy was busy putting on makeup. Inside the archives, Sichong was looking for his health check report. Hearing a noise, he cautiously checked for anyone nearby. Seeing no one, he finally felt safe and carried the documents out. Outside, Wei Wei ran into Doxy and immediately gave chase to Sichong. Passing through the square, he found himself surrounded by female students. Spotting a friend dressed in a Pikachu costume, Wei Wei got an idea. Doxy blocked Sichong's path so that Wei Wei could use her electricity from behind. Unexpectedly, Sichong heard the electrical charge, turned around, grabbed Wei Wei's hand, and accidentally flung the Pikachu head away. In that instant, when his eyes met Wei Wei's, a bolt of electricity seemed to strike straight into Sichong's heart, followed by a strange, spreading sensation that softened his gaze. Startled by Doxy calling his name, Sichong turned around, only to find Wei Wei gone. He accepted the file from Doxy, who assumed their plan had worked, but in reality, things had not gone as she expected. Sitting across from the Pikachu head, Sichong confessed that his heart kept fluttering, as if he were unwell. A simple touch of Wei Wei's hand left his entire body frozen. He could distinctly feel an invisible spark traveling from her hand to his heart. On his way to return the plush head, Sichong spotted Wei Wei searching for the rest of the Pikachu costume. Doxy wondered why. After more than 10 hours, Sichong still hadn't agreed to date her. At that moment, the student council president, Xiang, texted Wei Wei demanding the Pikachu back. She hurried to apologize and offered to compensate him, only to realize the plush head was worth 6,000 yuan. Just then, Sichong appeared, returning the hat to Xiang and scolding him for trying to cheat others out of money. Seeing this, Wei Wei quickly pulled Sichong outside, yet Sichong seemed to enjoy holding her hand. Wei Wei asked why he had hidden the Pikachu head. He explained that he had only picked it up to help her. Then, he slowly moved closer to Wei Wei, guessing that she had done all this to impress him. He admitted he didn't know why, he just wanted to be a little closer to her. Embarrassed, Wei Wei ran off, while Sichong looked at her and smiled gently. Back at the dormitory, Wei Wei received a string of messages from Sichong, which left her feeling embarrassed and conflicted. Nevertheless, she decided to meet her best friend. Wei Wei confessed that her attempt to use her electricity had failed, but she already had a new plan to set things right. In another development, Sichong went to the medical room for a checkup. He confessed that ever since meeting Wei Wei, he couldn't stop thinking about her all day. He admitted that he even found himself constantly imagining her. The teacher diagnosed this as a case of lovesickness. Just then, the female doctor returned, and Sichong realized that the person advising him was actually a fourth-year sports management student named Beng Pai. Not long after, during a general class, Sichong took the initiative to sit near Wei Wei. When the teacher scolded Wei Wei during roll call, Sichong immediately spoke up in her defense. Wei Wei warned him not to disturb her studies, and he obediently listened. After class ended, Sichong stood up and boldly declared that he wanted to date Wei Wei. She tried to pull him back down, but her strength was no match for the swimmer, and Sichong continued to confess his feelings to her. Feeling too embarrassed, Wei Wei quickly ran outside. She advised Sichong to go take a nap, insisting that his current emotions were merely an illusion. Sichong confessed that nothing had ever occupied his mind for over 10 hours before, and he had spent a long time thinking before finally confessing to her. Wei Wei, wanting to avoid an argument, tried to leave, but accidentally bumped into Sichong's mother. Sichong introduced Wei Wei to his mother as his future girlfriend. His mother guessed that her son hadn't officially pursued the girl yet, so she invited Wei Wei to her birthday party. Seeing their son in love made Sichong's parents excited. Sichong reminded them not to put pressure on Wei Wei. Hearing this, Wei Wei nearly choked on her soup. Panicked, Sichong rushed to pour her some water, but accidentally knocked over a chair. Seeing this, Mrs. Mai called Sichong into her room. She guessed that her son hadn't listened to the doctor and had continued overtraining. Sichong reminded his mother not to reveal his injury, as it could jeopardize his chance to join the provincial team. Mrs. Mai supported her son, but still reminded him to take care of his health. Sichong's father packed belongings for the two of them, and then asked the driver to take them back to school. Sichong apologized to Wei Wei, surprised that his mother had taken her home for a meal. Wei Wei, however, ignored the situation, refused the snacks, and urged him to get some rest. Just then, Beng Pai walked by. Wei Wei looked at him with a private, wistful expression before quickly excusing herself to return to the dormitory. At that moment, Sichong revealed to Beng Pai that Wei Wei was the girl he had always been thinking about. Unexpectedly, Beng Pai seemed displeased upon hearing this. Back at the dormitory, Wei Wei met Doxy again. She apologized for not having fixed her mistake yet, but reassured her friend that in a few hours, Sichong would return to normal. When that happened, she promised to make him fall in love with Doxy. Not long after, the 24 hours had passed. Sichong woke up and read the messages in which he had confessed his feelings to Wei Wei. He declared that no matter how she had rejected him, he would not give up. He couldn't sleep and just wanted to shout out how much he liked Wei Wei. On the way to school, Sichong remarked that love at first sight wasn't something to trust. When he arrived at the swimming pool, Wei Wei asked him to save Doxy, who appeared to be struggling in the water. Sichong suspected it was an act since the water was only chest deep. Desperate, Wei Wei pushed Sichong in, but unexpectedly, he grabbed her hand, and both of them fell into the pool. At that moment, Dingyi arrived and heard Doxy calling for help, so he jumped in as well. In the water, Wei Wei accidentally brushed Sichong's cheek, sending an electric spark through him that also reached Doxy and Dingyi. Once again, Sichong found himself love-struck by the girl before him. His gaze softened as he gently touched Wei Wei's round, adorable face, but when he spoke, his voice came out unexpectedly high-pitched, like a girl's. Back at the dormitory, Sichong tried numerous throat remedies, but none seemed to work. Wei Wei stepped outside and saw him waiting in front of her classroom. She hurriedly covered her face to avoid him, but accidentally bumped into a friend. The sudden spin caught Sichong's attention, leaving him stunned for 3 seconds before he rushed after her. Sichong cornered Wei Wei against a wall and demanded that she return his voice to normal. Wei Wei guessed that he had lost his voice from overtraining, but Sichong immediately denied it, insisting that it was Wei Wei who had caused it. He even demanded that she take responsibility for him. Embarrassed, Wei Wei could only cover his mouth, then reluctantly agreed to let him follow her around for the day. She promised to help him resolve everything, as long as he didn't speak. At class, Wei Wei complained about not being able to sit at the front to make a good impression on Teacher Mei. Sichong was about to claim the seat for himself, but Wei Wei quickly grabbed his hand. He smiled and spent the entire lesson quietly admiring her. Since Wei Wei disliked attention from others, Sichong covered his face, though he confidently declared that one day he would openly be by her side. At that moment, a group of female students approached to add Sichong on WeChat. Knowing he couldn't speak up, Wei Wei opened a fan group for the school's swimming idol. Pleased, Sichong demanded that she take him out for a meal. At the cafeteria, he quickly sat next to Wei Wei, not wanting to eat as he was too busy gazing at the girl he adored. Just then, Doxy and Ding Yi arrived for lunch as well. Doxy suddenly felt concerned about Ding Yi and guessed that she had been affected by Wei Wei's electricity. Later, seeing Sichong showing attention to Wei Wei, Doxy pouted and walked away. Wei Wei immediately ran after her, and it was only then that Sichong realized he was hungry. He asked Ding Yi for a chicken drumstick and suddenly discovered that his voice had returned to normal. Sichong wanted to share the good news with Wei Wei, but Ding Yi advised him to simply enjoy her attention for now. On her way to chase after Daxi, Wei Wei accidentally ran into Beng Pai. Turning around, she saw Sichong searching for her, so she asked him to shield her. Beng Pai wondered if Wei Wei hadn't joined the athletics department because of him. She quickly denied it and didn't want to bring up the past. Back at the dormitory, Doxy angrily began packing her things, planning to move rooms. She scolded Wei Wei for not treating her like a true best friend. From the beginning, if Wei Wei had been honest about liking Sichong, Doxy would have gladly helped them. Wei Wei immediately denied this, but Doxy guessed that Wei Wei was playing both sides, since Beng Pai was also pursuing her. Hearing this, Wei Wei became upset and stormed off. At that moment, Sichong called Wei Wei, reminding her to take care of him until he fully recovered. Not long after, he noticed Wei Wei meeting the class president, Lin Bai, in the library and immediately felt jealous. Wei Wei was asking Lin Bai for tips on improving her grades to qualify for a department transfer next year. Lin Bai, planning to start a club to earn extra points, invited her to join. Feeling that Lin Bai was trying to lure Wei Wei, Sichong quickly pulled her out of the library. Frustrated, he accidentally revealed that his voice had returned to normal. To make amends, he offered to help Wei Wei recruit members for the club. Noticing Wei Wei shielding her eyes from the sun while checking her phone, Sichong gently placed a hat on her head. He even carefully adjusted her hair, and Wei Wei couldn't help but be captivated by his smile. Not long after, the two of them went together to the stadium and gym to interview students about joining the club. After finishing the survey, Wei Wei arranged to meet Sichong again in a few days. She thought his feelings were fleeting and figured that by the next morning he would realize how foolish he had been. Sichong insisted that his feelings were genuine but still couldn't make Wei Wei stay. Soon after, at the pool, Ding Yi noticed his friend looking upset and guessed that Wei Wei thought Sichong lacked experience in love. He suggested that a confession should include fresh flowers and music to make it feel special. Inspired, Sichong decided to create a treasure map to surprise Wei Wei. He then sent her a photo of the map and arranged to meet her at the final destination. Following the treasure map, Wei Wei unexpectedly ran into Beng Pai. He mentioned that he was sitting with a student transferring departments and wanted to introduce her. Meanwhile, Sichong had been waiting for Wei Wei for a long time. Ding Yi urged his friend to call her, as the square was about to have a power cut. However, Wei Wei was chatting with an upper-class woman and couldn't take the call. Ding Yi happened to see a photo on the school forum showing Wei Wei with Beng Pai. Seeing this, Sichong immediately grew jealous and ran to pull Wei Wei away. Back at the square, Sichong presented her with a cart full of fresh flowers. He confessed that he liked her very much and hoped that Wei Wei would return his feelings. Sichong's declaration of love made her heart race. Later, Wei Wei touched the wall and accidentally lit up the lights. She quickly pulled her hand away, causing the lights to flicker off. Sichong chased after her, demanding an explanation for what had just happened. Realizing her electricity was intensifying, Wei Wei hugged him tightly. Sichong was stunned into silence, standing frozen as the electric current coursed through his body. Once Wei Wei had stabilized her heartbeat, she released him and explained that her body carried electricity. The higher her heartbeat, the stronger the current. If someone looked into her eyes at that moment, they would feel an illusion of affection, though it would disappear after 24 hours. Sichong wondered if the illusion could feel that real, because even now, looking into Wei Wei's eyes, his heart still fluttered. Back at the dormitory, Sichong tried to understand the phenomenon of people carrying electricity. He then texted Wei Wei, scolding her for using her powers twice, which he claimed had cost him 48 hours of being normal. He even demanded that she serve as his assistant for 24 hours to make up for it. The next day, at the cafeteria, Sichong casually ordered food and made Wei Wei pay. Afraid he might reveal her secret, she obediently complied. Suddenly, Sichong felt a bitter taste in his mouth and wanted bubble tea. Wei Wei had just bought bubble tea and now had to peel shrimp for him. At the cafe, Sichong made her do his English homework. Wei Wei protested that he should do it himself since the system wouldn't recognize her voice. But Sichong admitted he suddenly felt sleepy and feared that he might accidentally reveal Wei Wei's secret in his dreams. Seeing this, Wei Wei reluctantly indulged him for the entire day. At the boys' dorm, he arranges to meet Wei Wei the next day. Sichong reminds her that she must complete the 24-hour assistant task without missing a single second. The next day in class, Sichong waits until Wei Wei finishes presenting her research topic before asking, "How do you treat electricity electric currents in the human body. It's clear his question is meant to tease her, leaving Wei Wei in an awkward position. Fortunately, the teacher intervenes, as time is running short and Wei Wei has to yield the floor to another group. After class, Sichong follows Wei Wei and calls her Pikachu, which makes her furious. She warns him not to tail her anymore. Sichong questions himself, wondering why he waits for a call from someone who made a mistake first. Ding Yi advises him not to be stubborn. If he misses her, he should just call. Yet Sichong firmly denies having feelings for Wei Wei, and even tells Ding Yi to make sure he sets clear boundaries with her. In another development, Wei Wei goes to meet the student council president. She asks for approval to start a physical massage club, but he still holds a grudge over the Pikachu hat incident and says he will need more time to consider. Hearing that Shang needs someone to prepare for a new event, Wei Wei offers to help as a way to make amends. She spends the entire afternoon putting up posters, but Shang realizes she is using last year's version and orders her to redo them. When she protests that she doesn't want to do it, he throws her club approval form to the ground. Just then, Sichong arrives and urges Wei Wei to shock Shang. She quickly covers his mouth but cannot fully contain her anger. Seeing that Shang wanted to bully the students, Sichong felt like confronting him. Shang quickly left, warning Wei Wei that if she didn't finish putting up the posters, her club wouldn't be approved. Sichong chased after Wei Wei to apologize. In his anger, he had spoken harshly to her. He also sensed that the electric shock incident had a deep impact on her. Wei Wei, in turn, remembered that every time she delivered a shock, it seemed to cause more misunderstandings. Rumors spread across the school that she flirted with someone every day, and even her closest friend began to distance herself from Wei Wei. Sichong guessed that Wei Wei wanted to change her major because she was worried that the rehabilitation department would require too much interaction with others. At the swimming pool, the coach praised Sichong for his progress, though his performance was still on par with his high school days. Ding Yi pointed out that Wei Wei was actually the biggest contributor, as Sichong always swam much faster after meeting her. Suddenly, Sichong remembered the electric therapy method, which could relieve pain during sports. He then arranged to meet Wei Wei at the pool, asking her to help time his swim. Sichong jumped into the water and swam straight ahead with powerful strokes. Seeing him swim so strongly made Wei Wei smile without realizing it. When he finished, she announced that his time was 51 seconds. Afterward, Sichong asked Wei Wei to give him an electric shock. Thinking he was joking, she ran out, but Sichong chased after her, insisting that he was serious. Wei Wei felt embarrassed when she noticed Sichong's firm chest. She refused, worried that he might develop feelings for her again. Sichong promised to close his eyes, saying that even if he happened to be moved, he wouldn't hold Wei Wei responsible. At that moment, she heard whispers behind them and hurriedly pushed him back into the pool. Sichong's towel slipped, exposing his upper body. He pulled Wei Wei closer, causing her to accidentally touch his chest. Flustered, she quickly pushed him away. Wei Wei still didn't understand why she had to shock him. Sichong revealed that the electric current helped him swim faster. Just then, the class monitor called, urging Wei Wei to attend a group meeting. Unable to convince Wei Wei, Sichong explored alternative ways to transmit electricity. He experimented with balloons, therapy machines, batteries, and even a stun baton, which ended with him tumbling to the ground. At the same time, Bang Pai met with Wei Wei to ask about Sichong. He mentioned that his company, where he was interning, was very eager to sign a contract with Sichong. Bang Pai had heard that Sichong either had an injury or wanted to join a foreign club, which was why he hadn't joined the provincial team. Meanwhile, Sichong noticed that Wei Wei hadn't replied to his messages. By chance, he ran into Lin Bai and asked if Wei Wei had any more classes. Lin Bai said he had just seen Wei Wei at a cafe with Bang Pai. Sichong immediately rushed over, confronting Wei Wei about not answering his calls. Seizing the opportunity, Bang Pai introduced himself, explaining that he was interning at a sports management company. He suggested that with Sichong's appearance, he would be perfect as a famous star. Sichong thanked him, but said that for now, he only wanted to join the provincial team. Bang Pai warned that being a professional athlete was like a gamble. If Sichong got injured, everything could end. Sichong still declined, ready to accept the risk. Before leaving, he asked permission to go ahead and didn't forget to call Wei Wei to come with him. At the therapy room, Sichong asked Wei Wei to administer the electric treatment. He remarked that she seemed perfectly suited for the rehabilitation field. At that moment, Wei Wei looked up and met Sichong's gaze. Embarrassed, he muttered that his joints felt much more comfortable. Sichong believed that if she treated him with electricity every day, his physical strength would recover quickly. Wei Wei wondered why he hadn't joined the provincial team before. Seeing him avoid the question, she strapped a heart rate monitor onto his wrist, made him look directly into her eyes, and insisted that she wasn't injured. Sichong assured her that his body was healthy, but his heartbeat was racing. racing. In a flustered attempt, he covered his eyes, but accidentally pressed Wei Wei against the bed. In that moment, feathers floated into the air, and Sichong felt as if the world had shrunk to just him and Wei Wei. She quickly pushed him away, scolding him for being both foolish and clumsy. Sichong chased after her, repeatedly apologizing. He remembered that he had never held Wei Wei responsible when she had accidentally touched his chest. Wei Wei tried to retrieve her watch, but Sichong insisted she administered the electric treatment first. She failed to get the watch and accidentally fell against him. Sichong didn't mind that she stepped on his shoes. He gently returned the watch and asked Wei Wei not to be mad at him. She admitted that she had never given anyone a continuous shock before and feared for his safety. Sichong, serious, replied that swimming was the most important thing in his life, and whatever the consequences, he would bear them himself. At the physical training room, Wei Wei exercised to raise her heart rate, but Sichong still couldn't feel any electricity. Seeing her efforts were ineffective, he placed her hand on his cheek, fearing that Sichong might develop feelings for her. Wei Wei hugged him tightly. The current she generated was so strong that Sichong's hair stood on end. He immediately took her to the pool to measure his performance after the electric treatment. Later, Sichong brought Wei Wei to a restaurant to replenish her energy. He personally fed his benefactor, but Wei Wei insisted on eating by herself. Noticing food on her mouth, Sichong quickly wiped it away for her. He reassured her that this was a gratitude meal, so she could eat comfortably without worry. Back at the dorm, Sichong heard from Ding Yi that the movie Lightning Hero was showing at the theater. Noticing its similarities to Wei Wei's abilities, he quickly booked tickets online. When he met Wei Wei on the school grounds, he invited her to the movie, unaware that she was actually waiting for Beng Pai. Coincidentally, Beng Pai was going to the same film. Feeling a bit awkward, Wei Wei invited Sichong to come along. At the theater, Sichong felt a pang of jealousy when Beng Pai offered Wei Wei some popcorn. Remembering that she ate a lot, he generously gave her his large tub. While Beng Pai went to the restroom, Wei Wei dozed off in her seat, and Sichong gently rested her head on his shoulder. When Beng Pai returned, he deliberately called Wei Wei awake. On the way home, Sichong teased Wei Wei for falling asleep just 10 minutes into the movie. Beng Pai explained that she rarely watched films and simply enjoyed the comfort of the theater, which made it easy for her to doze off. The next day, at the training room, Wei Wei complained about having to wake up early. She urged Sichong to recharge her with electricity quickly so she could head off to school. He grabbed her hand, but the current was too weak, so Wei Wei promised to try another day. Still feeling drowsy, Sichong challenged her, saying she could only leave if she managed to snatch the basketball from his hands. When Wei Wei stumbled backward, he quickly caught her, pressing her against his chest. At that moment, her racing heartbeat sent electric currents coursing through Sichong's body. In that instant, the world seemed to fall silent, leaving only the hum of electricity echoing in his chest. Hearing Beng Pai's footsteps, Sichong finally let go of Wei Wei. Suddenly, a friend called to say that they had arranged a meeting with the student council president. Knowing that Sichong was seeking approval to start a club, Shan made a junior bow and apologized first. Sichong admitted that he had a temper. If he suffered a loss without being approved, he might accidentally smash someone's head. Hearing that Sichong came from a well-off family, Shan requested some sponsorship for the student council. Sichong agreed, on the condition that Wei Wei's club would be approved. Meanwhile, Beng Pai wondered how Sichong knew that Wei Wei could generate electricity. Wei Wei replied that she trusted Sichong to keep it a secret. Beng Pai asked if her trust came from the fact that Sichong liked her. Wei Wei explained that Sichong had been accidentally exposed to her electricity, which caused him to be moved. Beng Pai realized that all the middle school rumors about Wei Wei flirting were actually caused by the electric current within her. Not wanting to dwell on the past, she excused herself and left. At the pool, Wei Wei told Sichong that Beng Pai now knew about her ability but hadn't reacted like Sichong. Instead, he had threatened to tell everyone about her. Before she could finish, Sichong assured her that he would never reveal her secret to anyone. He vowed that if anyone dared to bully Wei Wei, he would protect her. When she said it wasn't necessary, Sichong, furious, pulled her into his arms. Back home, Sichong asked his mother to help review the family accounts. He suspected that the student council president had embezzled some of the funds. Mrs. Mai, seeing her son concerned about something unrelated to himself for the first time, guessed it had something to do with Wei Wei. The next day, Coach Yuni criticized Sichong's performance. Noticing the dark circles under his eyes, she guessed he had been staying up late playing games. She then punished everyone, requiring them to swim 20 laps before they could eat. Soon after, Sichong invited Wei Wei to the plaza and gave her a cup of bubble tea. Seeing him sneak glances at her, Wei Wei guessed he didn't dare drink it, fearing it would affect his performance. Sichong quickly sipped the tea, determined to prove he could still break records as usual. Later, he walked Wei Wei back to to the girl's dorm. Outside, he noticed her eating durian candy. Knowing Sichong disliked the smell, Wei Wei teased him, saying he shouldn't come looking for her unless it was urgent. Sichong grabbed her hand and asked why she didn't consider him a friend. Wei Wei replied that their tastes were too different to be friends. Without hesitation, Sichong popped a piece of durian candy into his own mouth, declaring that he shared the same world as Wei Wei. Not long after, Wei Wei returned to request Shan's approval for the club, only to be ordered by the student council president to sweep the floors. At that moment, Bang Pai appeared and warned Shan not to abuse his power by bullying others. He advised Wei Wei not to mind people like him. Bang Pai gave Wei Wei a pineapple-flavored candy and invited her to the library. Meanwhile, Sichong submitted the student council's financial records. Miss Mei thanked him for reporting the issue and promised to deal strictly with such misconduct. Sichong excitedly shared the news with Wei Wei, but Bang Pai answered her phone. Sichong had no choice but to wait for her at the dorm entrance. Seeing Bang Pai giving Wei Wei a gift, Sichong quickly reminded her it was time to meet him. She hurriedly pulled him along, leaving Bang Pai behind with a disappointed expression. At the pool, Sichong asked Wei Wei where she had been with Bang Pai. She said she had gone to the library and then opened the gift from Bang Pai. Unexpectedly, Sichong snatched it from her and refused to give it back. When Wei Wei teased him for being more childish than Bang Pai, he angrily threw his gloves into the pool. Wei Wei pouted and left, while Sichong jumped in to retrieve the gloves. The next day, the school decided to expel the student council president. Miss Mei personally approved the establishment of the physical massage club. Wei Wei, thinking Bang Pai had helped, sent him a thank you message. Meanwhile, Sichong went for a health check, but he kept waiting for Wei Wei's message. The doctor reported that he was recovering well, though he wasn't yet back to full health. At that moment, the doctor's daughter arrived, and to everyone's surprise, it was Junjun. Mrs. Mai remembered that the last time she saw her, Junjun had been just a little girl. When Junjun was young, she used to cling to Sichol, though he had no memory of it. Upon hearing that Junjun attended the same school as Sichol, Mrs. Mai told her son to take her back to campus. On the way, Sichong asked about her rehabilitation class schedule. Junjun guessed that he was actually concerned about Wei Wei, but he quickly denied it. She then gave him a toy box as a gift to mark their long-awaited reunion. Sichong anticipated that Wei Wei would go to see the class monitor, so he went ahead to wait for her. He looked forward to receiving her thanks, only to find out that she thought Bang Pai had been the one to help her. Sichong didn't bother to explain and left ahead. Not long after, he saw Wei Wei struggling to hand out flyers promoting her club. Bang Pai bought her a cup of bubble tea. Wei Wei thanked him for helping her get the club approved. Before Bang Pai could understand the situation, Wei Wei had already dragged the class monitor off to distribute the flyers. Sichong happened to pass by and teased Wei Wei for being clumsy and inefficient with the flyers. He grabbed the stack and demonstrated the proper way to do it. Donning a Pikachu hat, Sichong sat blocking the walkway. Surprisingly, this tactic proved incredibly effective. Sichong helped the club recruit over 200 members. While attaching the electrodes for Wei Wei, Sichong accidentally saw a message from Bang Pai asking to meet her. Angered, he accidentally hurt Wei Wei and stormed off in a huff. He returned shortly after, intending to explain about the club approval. At that moment, Wei Wei suffered menstrual cramps. Sichong urged her to climb onto his back and carried her back to the dorm. Growing increasingly uncomfortable, Wei Wei stepped into Sichong's role, mimicking his behavior. Just then, Daxi happened to pass by and took her best friend back to her room. Wei Wei noticed that even though Daxi had moved into the dorm, she had changed the bed sheets just like Wei Wei had. Daxi gave a faint smile, and Wei Wei realized that her best friend was no longer upset with her. Sichong recalled the moment when Wei Wei leaned against him. He thought he had been shocked by electricity the way he felt so happy. Not long after, at the club, Wei Wei decided to host a wellness-themed party to welcome the new members. Sichong came to lend her a hand, but Wei Wei seemed a little evasive around him. He watched her struggle to hang a star on the ceiling. Stepping closer, Sichong lifted Wei Wei down and helped her place the star properly. He tapped her gently on the head, advising her not to reach for things too high if she was short. During the wellness party, Lin Bai invited a volunteer to give a massage. Seeing no one else stepping forward, Wei Wei called on Ding Yi. Just then, Bang Pai arrived to offer his congratulations, though he excused himself early to return to the office for overtime. Watching them chat cheerfully, Sichong flew into a rage and pulled Wei Wei outside. He confronted her, demanding to know what kind of relationship she had with Bang Pai. two friends happened to walk by, accidentally interrupting their conversation, which startled Wei Wei and made her dash into the room. When the party ended, Wei Wei stayed behind to clean up. Suddenly, Sichong called out, making her startle and fall into him. The unexpected fall caused his knee to hit the floor painfully. At the same time, the security guard outside was wearing headphones and didn't realize anyone was still inside when he locked the door. Seeing Sichong in increasing pain, Wei Wei quickly searched for a phone, then suddenly remembered she had given it to Doxy. Sichong felt around in his pocket but pretended he had given the phone to Ding Yi, sitting down to wait for someone to open the door. Wei Wei asked if he had ever injured his knee before. Sichong denied it, but Wei Wei knew he was hiding the truth. He finally shared that back in high school, he had injured his knee while saving a child. In return, he wanted to hear Wei Wei's secret. She confessed that she had always hated her ability to conduct electricity, but after saving someone once, she suddenly felt pretty cool about it. Not long after, Sichong unexpectedly fell asleep on Wei Wei's shoulder. She whispered a quiet thank you, which brought a satisfied smile to his face. They stayed like that until morning. Wei Wei woke up first and stole a glance at Sichong. At that moment, he opened his eyes and startled, sitting upright. The phone rang, and Sichong answered Ding Yi's call. He suddenly remembered that he had lied to Wei Wei the night before. Flustered, he scolded Ding Yi for leaving the phone in his pocket without telling him. Soon after, at the swimming pool, Coach Yuni announced that the school would hold an internal friendly match ahead of the provincial team selection. At that moment, Bang Pai also arrived to invite Sichong to an event where a famous swimmer named Han Yang would be present. Without hesitation, Sichong declined, saying he had some matters to attend to the next day. By coincidence, Wei Wei came by to deliver something to Sichong. Seeing this, Bang Pai invited her to attend the event. A huge fan of Han Yang, Wei Wei immediately accepted. When Doxy heard that Wei Wei was going to Bang Pai's company event, Donchi asked if she had forgiven him. She recalled the past, when Wei Wei had been bullied and Bang Pai had simply walked away. Not long after, on the school grounds, Sichong noticed Wei Wei's admiration for Han Yang. Seizing the moment, he proudly showed off that his first gold medal had been presented by Han Yang himself. Playfully, Sichong grabbed Wei Wei's phone to take a selfie and told her to keep it until he became famous. The next day, when Wei Wei went to meet Han Yang, she couldn't make her way through the crowd. At that moment, Bang Pai appeared and invited her to tour his company. Meanwhile, Sichong and Doxy were both upset, worried about Wei Wei going to see Han Yang. Doxy scolded Sichong for not keeping an eye on Wei Wei, letting her go along with Bang Pai. She recounted how back in high school, Wei Wei had been gossiped about so much that she had to transfer schools. At that time, the person she trusted most was Bang Pai, but unexpectedly, he turned away without a word and disappeared. Hearing this, Sichong grew anxious and immediately left. Meanwhile, Wei Wei got a private meeting with her idol. She gave Han Yang a notebook documenting all his achievements. Although retired, Han Yang greatly appreciated the thoughtful gift. Wei Wei asked for his autograph and requested a few encouraging words for her swimming friend. Bang Pai told Wei Wei to wait a moment so he could see Han Yang off. Soon after, two female fans appeared and warned Wei Wei for using the back entrance to meet Han Yang. While defending herself, Wei Wei accidentally discharged electricity at one of them. She screamed, calling for others to catch her. Outside the building, Sichong couldn't reach Wei Wei by phone, so he rushed into the company without hesitation. Fortunately, Sichong managed to stop the other girl's hand and then pulled Wei Wei outside. At that moment, Bang Pai arrived with Wei Wei's bag, apologizing for not realizing how much had happened. Sichong scolded him for using "I didn't know" as an excuse to shirk all responsibility. He also brought up the past, reminding Bang Pai that when he knew Wei Wei had been bullied so severely that she had to transfer schools, he had done nothing to help. Sichong called him a hypocrite and demanded that Bang Pai stay away from Wei Wei. Bang Pai explained that his father had an accident that day. At the same time, when a boy's mother came to school scolding Wei Wei for leading her son astray, Bang Pai also learned that his father was critically ill. After his father passed away, he had to move with his mother. He had once tried to message Wei Wei, but discovered she had changed her phone number. Not long after, during the full-body massage exam, Wei Wei waited for Sichong, but he hadn't arrived. She asked the professor to give her friend a few more minutes. Finally, Sichong appeared and immediately lay on the bed, obediently becoming her test subject. Feeling Wei Wei's hands move across his body from such close proximity, Sichong's heart felt like it would leap out of his chest. Wei Wei interlaced her fingers with his, and he couldn't look away. In this intimate moment, he felt as if the whole world existed only with Wei Wei. After the practice session ended, the two went to a grocery store together. Wei Wei told Sichong to feel free to buy whatever he wanted, but his mind was still lingering on the thrilling moment from earlier. On the way home, Sichong suddenly blocked Wei Wei's path, only for Bang Pai to call out to them. Bang Pai bought snacks for Wei Wei Weiwei, making Sichong jealous enough to walk off ahead. Back at the dormitory, Sichong felt restless and uneasy. He called Weiwei, asking her to transmit electricity, and even reminded her to invite him for a meal, but Weiwei hung up on him each time. Weiwei came to see him and explained that the class president had already learned about her plan to change majors. She had been busy clarifying things with him, which was why she hadn't answered his calls. Sichong felt relieved. Later, he used the excuse of needing to transmit electricity to take Weiwei's hand and go out together. Admitting his lack of dating experience, Sichong only knew how to take her to the mall. Weiwei immediately pointed out that they weren't on a date. Sichong then asked what kind of relationship they actually had. Spotting a couple kissing nearby, Weiwei blushed and said she wanted to go shopping. Sichong advised her that oversized t-shirts didn't suit her, suggesting clothes that better fit her petite frame. Afterwards, he led Weiwei to a store selling matching outfits, coaxing her to try on clothes similar to his. He even tried to suggest matching glasses, but Weiwei didn't like the idea. Sichong scolded her for discharging electricity without warning. Weiwei quickly insisted that she hadn't discharged electricity all day. Sichong grew flustered, realizing that it was actually the moment during the massage exam when he had felt a thrill for her. At the restaurant, Weiwei noticed Sichong acting strangely. At times he seemed completely indifferent, and at other times he stared at her intently. Worried he might have a fever, she asked if he was okay, but Sichong only wondered if she was really sure she hadn't discharged electricity at him during the exam. Confused, Weiwei reminded him to start eating before the food got cold. The next morning, Bang Pai had someone deliver breakfast to Weiwei, and even called to invite her to a newly opened restaurant near the school that weekend. Meanwhile, at the girls' dormitory, Sichong asked Doxy to call Weiwei, explaining that she was unwell and hadn't answered his calls. Doxy remarked that Sichong didn't need to buy snacks for Weiwei since Bang Pai was already taking care of her. She added that, although they weren't a couple now, the future was uncertain. While sitting with Bang Pai, Weiwei received an urgent message from Junjun and quickly excused herself. She went to the school gate to find Junjun, unaware that she was being followed by Ha Rui. Recently, reports had surfaced about a pervert stalking female students, and Ha Rui had discreetly tailed Junjun. Meanwhile, Sichong called Weiwei, telling her to wait for him. At that moment, the stalker suddenly attacked, but Weiwei discharged electricity and sent him sprawling to the ground. Hearing the commotion, Junjun rushed over and quickly led Weiwei to the security office. Everyone wondered how Weiwei had managed to subdue the pervert. Just then, Sichong arrived and explained that he had lent Weiwei the stun baton. Seeing her worried, he reassured her that no one would realize she had discharged electricity. If anyone did, they would just think they were seeing things. Afterward, he gave Weiwei a piece of candy, hoping to lift her spirits. While passing the street where the stalker had appeared, Junjun noticed a security camera and decided to lead Weiwei to the security office, as they wanted to identify the perpetrator. The guard explained that the camera had some issues the previous night and asked them to leave. Weiwei looked back and realized that the guard was limping in exactly the same way as the stalker. As they stepped outside, they coincidentally ran into Sichong. Weiwei voiced her suspicion that the guard might actually be the stalker. Sichong scolded her for ignoring his warnings and daring to investigate a criminal alone. He saved his number as an emergency contact in Weiwei's phone and told her to call him immediately if anything happened. At the swimming pool, Weiwei struggled to focus while transmitting electricity. Suddenly, Sichong lifted her up, and it worked so effectively that his voice even changed. He couldn't help but laugh at Weiwei's pouty reaction. Then, he asked her to help him time his performance, eager to see if he could improve further. Upon hearing that his results had increased, Sichong proudly declared that he had reached an international level. He told Weiwei to wait for his victory, promising to appoint her as the first rehabilitation doctor for the future Olympic team. Not long after, everyone held a meeting to figure out how to lure the stalker out. Sichong borrowed a few dresses from Junjun so Ding Yi could disguise himself as a girl. That evening, they stationed Ding Yi in the girls' restroom, waiting for the stalker to appear. While waiting, Ha Rui secretly watched Junjun, and Weiwei fell asleep on Sichong's shoulder, making him too nervous to move. Slowly, he inched closer to her. At that moment, Ding Yi chased the stalker outside. Weiwei managed to grab him, but was pushed into Sichong. The unexpected contact of their lips left them both stunned. Eventually, the stalker was caught. The police praised Ding Yi for his bravery and advised him not to let gender define how he confronts criminals. Afterwards, the group held a celebration. Junjun had prepared a commendation flag for her friends, but accidentally dropped a love letter, prompting everyone to wonder who it was meant for. She pointed to Sichong, then quickly shifted her gaze to Ha Rui. After hearing about the stalker, Bang Pai advised Weiwei to avoid going out alone at night. He also reminded reminded her of her promise to celebrate his birthday with him the next day. Wei Wei remembered that Sichong had an internal competition scheduled for tomorrow, but she didn't want to refuse Bang Pai. It turned out that Bang Pai planned to use this opportunity to confess his feelings to Wei Wei. The day of the competition arrived, but Sichong heard from Doxy that Wei Wei was busy attending Bang Pai's birthday. As he stepped onto the track, his eyes instinctively searched for her. Distracted, Sichong had a slower start than his competitors. Outside, Wei Wei happened to see two friends watching the race livestream. Seeing Sichong struggling, Harui surged ahead. Alarmed, Wei Wei rushed to the arena. On the way, she ran into an older student who revealed that Bang Pai planned to confess his feelings to her. Meanwhile, Sichong, frustrated at being behind Harui, stormed off. Wei Wei went to look for him but couldn't find him. Daxi also told her that Sichong had recorded his worst performance since joining the team. Back at the dormitory, Wei Wei tried to send a comforting message to Sichong but deleted it, wanting to see him in person instead. Unbeknownst to her, Sichong had been waiting for her message first. He silently chided her for attending Bang Pai's birthday and forgetting about him. Wei Wei waited outside the boys' dorm, bringing energy drinks for Sichong. He refused, insisting he didn't need her concern. Wei Wei warned that if he remained annoyed with her, she wouldn't help him anymore. Sichong immediately agreed, claiming he didn't even want to see her. Yet that evening, out of habit, he found himself walking to the girls' dorm to call her, only to turn back without knocking. The next day, the massage club posted a notice about holding a discussion. At that moment, the new student council president walked by, telling them to come to her if they needed help. The young man beside her praised Sichong for daring to expose the previous president. It was then that Wei Wei realized the one who had helped her wasn't Bang Pai, but Sichong. She immediately ran to the gym and found him sprawled by the pool. Worried, Wei Wei rushed over to perform chest compressions and CPR. Soon, he regained consciousness, hazily recognizing Wei Wei as the girl who had once saved him. Suddenly, Sichong leaned in and touched his lips to hers. Believing it to be a hallucination, he fainted again. Panicked, Wei Wei called for help to save him. When Sichong regained consciousness, he saw Wei Wei asleep beside his hospital bed. Memories from the past came rushing back. On his way home from school, he had seen a car speeding toward a child. Sichong rushed to save the boy, but unfortunately struck his knee against the car. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, a surge of electricity suddenly awakened him. The image of the girl who saved his life remained deeply etched in his mind. When Wei Wei woke up, she checked whether his fever had subsided. Sichong grabbed her hand, but still refused to open his eyes. She scolded him for being childish and shyly withdrew her hand. Sichong then inquired if she had once saved someone back in 12th grade. At that moment, his friends arrived with fruits to visit him. Wei Wei took a phone call and excused herself to meet Bang Pai at the cafeteria, leaving Sichong speechless with anger. Wei Wei went to have a meal with Bang Pai and apologized for not attending his birthday. Bang Pai guessed that she had been busy watching Sichong's competition. He directly asked Wei Wei if she liked Sichong. She tried to deny it but paused, remembering how her heart had truly fluttered when their lips had accidentally touched earlier. Using the excuse of being busy, Wei Wei excused herself and headed to the medical room, only to find that Sichong was no longer there. Haorui offered to secretly escort Wei Wei to the boys' dorm to calm Sichong down. Even knowing Wei Wei was coming, Sichong pretended to read a book, keeping a cold demeanor. When Wei Wei finally appeared, she urged him to eat. Their fingers accidentally brushed, and Sichong asked what she had talked about with Bang Pai. Wei Wei explained that she hadn't attended Bang Pai's birthday because she had been rushing to watch Sichong's competition, but still hadn't made it in time. Sichong quickly regained his composure, though he insisted that his excitement wasn't due to electricity transmission. He just wanted Wei Wei to come watch him compete. With that, he left the room. While Sichong went out to buy water, Wei Wei curiously played with the robot in his bag and accidentally discovered his health check report bearing his name. Outside, Sichong adjusted his clothes, preparing to meet the person he liked. Upon entering, he saw Wei Wei holding his health report. He hurriedly rushed over to retrieve it, inadvertently pulling her into a tight embrace. Embarrassed, Wei Wei asked why he had to steal her hand's hold on the report. Sichong explained that he was worried about not making it into the provincial team. Wei Wei then led him to return the report. At the door, she hopped around to raise her heart rate and open the door. Hearing footsteps, Sichong quickly pressed her against the wall, guessing that Wei Wei had once secretly followed him into the records room. At the restaurant, Wei Wei asked Sichong why he hadn't questioned her following him into the records room. Sichong remembered that Wei Wei hadn't exposed him. Moreover, she had told him her secret about being able to transmit electricity, so he trusted that she had no ill intentions. Wei Wei then arranged to meet the class president, asking him to teach her knee rehabilitation techniques. She began studying each acupressure point on the body and diligently read books late into the night. Meanwhile, Miss May called Sichong into the department office to explain why he had hidden his health report. Sichong accepted the punishment but pleaded with the school not to disclose his injury. Miss May reminded him to fully understand the seriousness of the matter. After Sichong left, Mrs. Mai immediately scolded her son for daring to steal his health report. She insisted that he go for a follow-up examination at the hospital and asked Wei Wei to accompany him. After the checkup, the doctor diagnosed that Sichong's knee would be difficult to fully recover to its original state. Mrs. Mai instructed him to stay for additional therapy and led Wei Wei outside to wait. She lamented that Sichong had defied her, even skipping a consultation with an American specialist to meet the swimmer Han Yang. Wei Wei assured her that, since she was studying rehabilitation, she would definitely help Sichong recover. Back at the school gate, Wei Wei thanked Sichong for rushing to save her during the meeting with Han Yan. Sichong reassured her, telling her not to worry, he would never give up on swimming. The next day, the school posted a notice criticizing Sichong. Everyone assumed that such a talented athlete's career was over. Wei Wei met Lin Bai and asked him to bring her to Sichong's dorm to give him massages in her free time. Lin Bai agreed immediately, eager for a test subject, but in exchange Wei Wei had to participate in the school sports day track events. At the swimming pool, the coach revealed that the provincial team had learned about Sichong's injury. She scolded him for lacking trust, which had led to this situation. Sichong thought that keeping it secret from most people would reduce pressure, but in reality, it was just avoidance. Wei Wei ran into Beng Pai at the schoolyard and asked him to help arrange a meeting between Sichong and Han Yan. Knowing it might be difficult, she asked casually. Later, Wei Wei went to Sichong's house and overheard Mrs. Mai saying he had locked himself in his room all day. Upon hearing Wei Wei, Sichong hurriedly tidied up and pretended to be reading. Wei Wei, noticing his embarrassment, decided not to go to school. Seeing Wei Wei, Sichong acted sulky and stayed sprawled on the bed. She tried to bring him back to school but accidentally fell against him. Just then, Mrs. Mai arrived with some fruit and witnessed the scene. She quickly turned away, suggesting the two continue with their business. Pretending to ask Sichong to take out the trash, she subtly scolded her son for being too hasty. When Wei Wei asked to leave, Mrs. Mai insisted she stay to look at photos of Sichong as a child. Hearing his mother happily recount his childhood achievements, Sichong asked her to respect his privacy. Mrs. Mai insisted the photos were meant for Wei Wei to see. Remembering that his mother had a yoga class to prepare for, Sichong tactfully ushered her out. Wei Wei wondered why Sichong loved swimming so much. He recounted that as a child, he had gone swimming and happened to meet a professional swimmer, none other than Coach Yang. From then on, Coach Yang was determined to guide him through the rest of high school. Wei Wei asked Sichong to take her to meet the coach. During the visit, Sichong apologized for not achieving the results Coach Yang had hoped for. Due to his knee injury, he had been unable to join the provincial team the previous year. Coach Yang gifted him a copy of his childhood self-assessment report, recalling the determined boy who never gave up. He affirmed that in his entire life, he had only met one talent like Sichong, and expressed his belief that one day, Sichong would represent the country in an international competition. Before they left, Coach Yang reminded Sichong to take good care of his girlfriend. Back at the school gate, Sichong quickly pulled his hood over his head. Wei Wei asked if he was still worried about losing face in front of their classmates. Sichong explained that he was concerned people might see them and spread rumors about Wei Wei. He agreed to walk her back to the dorm, but only along the route he chose. Wei Wei pointed out that he didn't want to go through crowded areas and was sneakingly hiding his face. She then pretended to greet Ding Yi. As she expected, Sichong panicked and hid behind her. He insisted he wasn't afraid of losing face, explaining that he simply wanted to take the smaller path so he could spend a little more time with someone special. Ding Yi waits for Sichong to return to the dormitory and immediately scolds his friend for changing. He had always been close to Sichong, yet now Sichong only confides in Wei Wei. To soothe his friend, he offers half a month's worth of meal money. Lin Bai, having waited for the two to finish talking, brings out a set of needles, eager to test them on Sichong. Meanwhile, Wei Wei, preparing for the sports meet, practices controlling her heartbeat while running. She recalls how much she used to love running, to the point that she would drag her father to the stadium with her every single day. Her father even joked that she must have been born a treadmill. Wei Wei sits down on the grass, intending to rest for a moment. Unexpectedly, Sichong catches her and smiles gently. He had planned to help her with training, but she's already exhausted. Sichong ends up carrying her back, joking that he will charge her 80 yuan. Just then, Wei Wei receives a message and immediately drags Sichong to the swimming pool. It turns out that Beng Pai had arranged for Han Yang to meet Sichong. Wei Wei takes Beng Pai to buy drinks, giving Sichong the chance to talk with his idol. Entering the gym, Han Yang notices that the place hasn't changed much, but Sichong certainly has. Yang recalls that the day before, when Wei Wei asked for his autograph, he was reminded that he had once presented an award to Sichong. Sichong expresses his regret that Yang retired early, leaving him without the chance to compete against his idol. Despite a waist injury, Yang still wants a friendly match with Sichong. The two take their marks, dive into the water, and race forward. With Sichong's hand reaching the finish first, Yang then reveals that he came today on a mission. Wei Wei had explained Sichong's situation and asked Yang to encourage him. Sichong hesitates briefly, but is willing to give it a try. Yang realizes that even if he hadn't appeared, Sichong already had his answer in his heart. Suddenly, Wei Wei rushes over to warn that someone is secretly photographing Yang, and a large crowd of students is gathering outside the gym. Sichong pretends to be a senior to distract and lead the crowd away, while Wei Wei sneaks off to guide Yang to safety. Noticing the approaching crowd, Sichong quickly pulls Wei Wei into his chest. Nestling against him, she feels slightly embarrassed. Sichong plans to take Wei Wei out to eat, but he is surprised to find her full of energy. At the noodle shop, Sichong reveals that he won the friendly match against Yang, promising to train diligently for the provincial team. Sichong thanks her for helping him not give up. He asks Wei Wei if she remembers saving someone back in high school. At that time, she had seen Sichong collapsing on the street. Panic, Wei Wei generated electricity to revive his heartbeat. Only when he seemed to regain consciousness did she hurriedly call for an ambulance. Sichong then reveals that the person Wei Wei saved was him. He is surprised to realize that the one who rescued him was a little Pikachu. Grateful, he thanks her for coming into his world. The two stand outside the dormitory. Sichong smears cream on Wei Wei's face because she had spoken poorly about him to Yang. Wei Wei retorts, but Sichong grips her hand firmly. He flicks her forehead lightly and almost instinctively cups her face in his hands. Flustered, she rushes into the dormitory. Sichong follows, pulling her aside to avoid bumping into a friend. He notices her face flushing intensely. Just then, their friend Wu Xin passes by, urging Wei Wei to return to her room. Wu Xin reminds her that the body's reactions cannot lie. Wei Wei realizes that every time she gets close to Sichong, her heartbeat spikes. She wonders if these moments are signs of a fluttering heart. Meanwhile, Bang Pai waits to meet Sichong. He recalls that years ago, Wei Wei had joined the track team he captained. On the day of the Chikshi festival, she secretly gave Bang Pai a gift. At that moment, he realizes that Wei Wei has feelings for him. Sichong responds, recalling how in the game, his character would often force opponents to yield, only to inevitably hear the system announce defeat twice. After saying this, Sichong promptly walks away. Wei Wei returns home and asks her father to fix her watch. Her father tells her that the watch isn't broken. At that moment, Wei Wei recalls how her heartbeat had surged the night before. Just then, Sichong shows up at her house and invites Wei Wei out to eat. Seeing her father step outside, Wei Wei quickly explains that Sichong is a schoolmate and that he came today to buy books. Understanding the hint, Wei Wei's mother swiftly pulls her husband back inside to prepare a meal. Wei Wei tells Sichong to wait while she asks her parents for permission before going out to eat with him. In a different scene, Doxy scolds Ding Yi for daring to give Sichong Wei Wei's address. Ding Yi suddenly moves closer and asks if she likes Sichong. Doxy firmly replies, insisting that she stopped liking him a long time ago. At the restaurant, Sichong keeps serving food to Wei Wei. Remembering that she dislikes onions, he thoughtfully removes them for her. Wei Wei wonders if she might have accidentally zapped him with electricity. Sichong gently replies that he simply wants to be a little kinder to her. He also admits that his improved swimming is thanks to Wei Wei. Sichong's words leave her feeling flustered. At the end of the meal, Wei Wei calls Doxy to ask if Sichong's brain might have been fried from her electric shock. Doxy insists that he truly likes Wei Wei. At that moment, Wei Wei's mother brings her some milk. Knowing her daughter is at the age for love, she advises her to find someone who genuinely cares for her. If he is willing to stay by her side despite knowing her special condition, then his feelings are sincere. When Wei Wei returns to the dormitory, she is carrying heavy bags and distracted by a phone call, accidentally bumping into Sichong. It turns out he had been waiting for her for over an hour to invite her to lunch. The dormitory manager passes by and praises Wei Wei's boyfriend for being so considerate. Later, in the cafeteria, Sichong asks Wei Wei if she has registered for the relay race in the sports meet. She loves the feeling of soaring through the wind. However, Junjun hasn't joined, leaving the relay team short a member. At that moment, Junjun texts Sichong, expressing her desire to participate in the relay, though she worries it might affect the team's performance. Sichong believes she should do what will prevent her from having regrets. No matter the outcome, he promises to support her, and even pledges to treat Junjun to snacks for a whole year. When returning to the dormitory, Sichong sees Wei Wei waiting for him. He notices her secretly secretly hiding a gift behind her back. Sichong tries to snatch it, accidentally getting close to her. Flustered, Wei Wei takes the initiative to give him the gift. He criticizes it as slightly ugly, but refuses to give it back. Wei Wei then lies across Sichong. Just at that moment, Harui walks by and witnesses the scene. Feeling embarrassed, she quickly excuses herself and leaves. At the stadium, Lin Bai officially forms the team to start relay practice. Unexpectedly, he falls behind the three girls. When the sports meet finally arrives, tensions are sure to rise even higher. Lin Bai watches tensely as his opponents dash down the track. Wu Xin recalls the times he had taught her acupressure techniques to relieve stress, and he thanks her for paying such careful attention to his lessons. Meanwhile, Sichong stays by Wei Wei's side to reassure her. He explains that the relay baton is made of wood and won't conduct electricity, but Wei Wei remains anxious, worried that it might suddenly rain. Sichong comforts her, assuring her that he has checked the weather forecast and that the skies will remain clear. As the race begins, Wu Xin gets off to a slow start but quickly overtakes her opponent. When it's Junjun's turn, Harui runs alongside to cheer her on. Suddenly, a storm brews. Sichong, worried, advises Wei Wei to call off the race, but she believes the rain won't start immediately and doesn't want to let the team's efforts go to waste. Junjun successfully passes the baton to Lin Bai, but he unexpectedly trips mid-run. Sichong immediately jumps in, grabs the baton, and continues the race in Lin Bai's place. He successfully passes the baton to Wei Wei, allowing her to finish her leg of the race. Yet, after running only a short distance, Wei Wei collapses onto the ground. She doesn't dare ask anyone for help. At that moment, the rain begins to pour. Sichong pushes through the crowd, running toward Wei Wei. She warns him not to come closer, fearing she can't control her electric powers. Ignoring everything, Sichong embraces her tightly. He reassures her not to be afraid and promises that he will always stay by her side. At the same time, he expresses his sincere feelings for Wei Wei. As soon as his confession ends, Sichong kisses her. Wei Wei doesn't hesitate to reciprocate, revealing that she has liked him for a long time. The two of them then embrace under the pouring rain. Back at the women's dormitory, Sichong doesn't want to part from his girlfriend. Wei Wei gently urges him to rest so he can be ready for tomorrow's match. Sichong pulls her close and kisses her. Flustered, she shyly wishes him a good night. The next day, the South University swimming team sets off for the competition venue. They arrive ahead of schedule, even preparing celebratory flags to cheer for their victory. Wei Wei met her boyfriend privately and gave him a kiss to cheer him on. Sichong, in turn, asked his girlfriend to wait for him to bring glory back to her. During warm-up, he suddenly felt pain in his knee. Sichong looked up toward the stands, searching for Wei Wei, as she was his greatest motivation. All the athletes took their positions at the starting line. At the sound of the whistle, Sichong shot forward with incredible speed and ultimately claimed first place. His performance left Harui, who came in second, far behind. Sichong turned to Wei Wei, expressing his love for her. To celebrate both his own success and Harui's entry into the provincial team, he invited friends to enjoy a hot spring together. Ding Yi, stepping into the VIP room for the first time, immediately felt he wanted to marry his best friend. Sichong had finished arranging things for everyone and hurriedly took his girlfriend outside for a walk. He intended to hold her hand, but at that very moment, she was busy sending an electric shock. He told her to get used to it gradually, reminding her that in the future, they would be holding hands often. Wei Wei obediently practiced, and eventually, she took the initiative to hold Sichong's hand. He pulled her into his arms, intending to kiss her, but at that moment, a noise rang out from afar. Their friends panicked and scattered, forcing him and Wei Wei to awkwardly separate. Back at the restaurant, Sichong had prepared a special snack just for his girlfriend. Doxy noticed that the dish included lettuce and watermelon, along with raccoon and loach. The name of the dish was a homophone for "I like you." Their friends teased Sichong for being overly sentimental. While playing cards, Ding Yi lost and was punished by having bright red lipstick applied. When it was Sichong's turn, he was penalized to kiss Wei Wei. He asked everyone to look away so he could focus on the punishment, not wanting the kiss to feel like just part of a game. Sichong pressed his lips against hers through his finger. Harui felt uneasy seeing Junjun sad because of Sichong. He took the initiative to deal the cards and successfully drew the king. Harui then requested that the ace of spades and ace of clubs give each other a hug. Junjun held the ace of spades, while Sichong held the ace of clubs. Wei Wei wasn't upset. Instead, she encouraged her boyfriend to complete the task quickly. Sichong stepped forward and gave Junjun a gentle hug. The hug between childhood friends was warm and heartfelt. Later, Junjun met Harui privately and asked him not to try pairing her with Sichong. She knew he liked Wei Wei and didn't want to come between them. Sichong invited his girlfriend to the flower garden, where he had prepared a few sparklers. He wanted to set off fireworks, but there was nowhere nearby to buy them. Hoping she would enjoy it, Sichong looked at Wei Wei's expression and realized she wasn't exactly happy. Sichong explained that he wanted to create a special memory for her, confessing that Wei Wei was his first love. He admitted he didn't know how to do better and hoped she could accept a clumsy boyfriend like him. Moved by his sincere words, Wei Wei took the initiative to kiss Sichong. Immediately after, he returned her kiss. At that very moment, fireworks burst across the sky, their dazzling light forming a perfect backdrop for the couple's sweet kiss. Sichong smiled and pulled Wei Wei into his arms. That night, they were happy together, watching the brilliant fireworks illuminate the sky. Before leaving, the group took a commemorative photo to capture this unforgettable moment. Harui asked to leave early to go home, and Junjun took the opportunity to visit an anime fair on the way. Meanwhile, Wu Xin dragged Lin Bai back to school for part-time work. Left without plans, Wei Wei invited Doxy to go shopping. At the mall, Sichong announced that he would soon have to join the provincial team and wanted some private time with his girlfriend. Wei Wei shook her head, thinking his idea was rather risky. Just then, Ding Yi happened to spot them, prompting Sichong to quickly pull Wei Wei to another spot. Back at the dormitory, Wei Wei sighed, unsure of which major to switch to. Doxy advised her to continue studying rehabilitation, hoping that one day she could become Sichong's personal doctor. Wei Wei imagined herself proudly standing on the podium, receiving an award alongside her boyfriend. At that moment, in the dorm lobby, Bang Pai, drunk, demanded to see Wei Wei. She helped him back to the boys' dormitory, though he was heavily intoxicated. When she tried to call Sichong, Bang Pai snatched the phone and declared that Wei Wei belonged only to him. He returned the keychain that she had given him years ago. Bang Pai caused a scene, declaring that he didn't need gifts. He demanded that Wei Wei stay by his side, all while forcefully pulling her into his arms. At that moment, Sichong arrived just in time and, in anger, hit Bang Pai to bring him to his senses. Afterwards, Sichong escorted Wei Wei back to the dorm and gently applied medicine for her. He expressed his frustration at not being able to be with her all the time. Sichong arranged to meet Bang Pai and forbade him from coming near his girlfriend. He didn't care about the past between them. All he wanted was for Bang Pai to stay away from Wei Wei. Later, Sichong went home to pack, remembering to take some durian candy with him. His mother guessed his plan, knowing he disliked durian. When he stepped outside, he saw his girlfriend waiting. Sichong approached quietly, but Wei Wei had already noticed him. He handed her the candy and even tried to taste it from her fingers. Before getting into the car, Sichong forced a smile and waved at his girlfriend. Wei Wei ran after him, reminding him to call her every day. Sichong said goodbye, but couldn't resist and ran to pull her into his arms. At the training camp, the athletes had to surrender their phones. After training, they were allowed 1 hour to contact their families. Sichong pretended he hadn't brought his phone, but the coach quickly saw through him. Every day, he made the most of the 1-hour break to call and check on his girlfriend. He never forgot to send gifts to Wei Wei on every special occasion. Meanwhile, Doxy was preparing to confess to Ding Yi. She called Wei Wei for encouragement, but Wei Wei was too busy talking with Sichong. Doxy approached Ding Yi and handed him a box of chocolates. She confessed her feelings and gently kissed him on the cheek. The next day, Ding Yi came to help Doxy move her belongings to the journalism dormitory. At that moment, Doxy noticed that Wei Wei had a fever and quickly asked Ding Yi to step outside. She knew that whenever her best friend was sick, Wei Wei's electrical energy became unstable. Wei Wei urged Doxy to continue moving to the new dorm, promising to call her immediately if she felt unwell. Meanwhile, at the provincial swimming team, Sichong couldn't reach Wei Wei by phone. Sichong asked Ding Yi to check on Wei Wei and see if she was all right. The next morning, still worried, he borrowed a passerby's phone. Calling Junjun, he learned that his girlfriend had a fever. He asked Junjun to buy medicine and take care of Wei Wei on his behalf. Sichong was summoned to the manager's office. Manager Tai informed him that someone had accused him of using painkillers to secure first place on the provincial swimming team. Sichong believed that his true performance had already been proven over time. Moreover, a rehabilitation doctor could testify that his injury did not affect his current performance. Manager Tai emphasized that he wasn't making assumptions, but Sichong would still have to undergo a drug test. After recovering from her illness, Wei Wei went to Yangcheng to see Sichong. However, the security guard wouldn't let her in, fearing she might disturb the athletes. By chance, Sichong happened to walk by and saw his girlfriend. He asked about her health and felt saddened to see that she had lost weight. Wei Wei didn't say a word and simply hugged Sichong. Knowing that Wei Wei was tired from the trip, Sichong led her to the pool to rest. Proudly, he introduced his girlfriend to everyone. Meeting the group for the first time, Wei Wei had even prepared gifts for each member. One of the team members mentioned that many female athletes had confessed their feelings to Sichong. Quickly, he pulled Wei Wei aside to shield her from such toxic remarks. Sichong wondered what she would have done if he hadn't accidentally walked by. She replied that she was willing to wait day and night and would only only go home once she could see him. Watching the sunlight glimmer on Wei Wei's face, Sichong gently lifted her chin and kissed her lips. Before parting, he reminded his girlfriend to message him once she got back to school to let him know she was safe. Wei Wei urged him to return to the team quickly, or he'd be punished with 20 laps of swimming. She quickly wrote a note on his back that read, "This dog has an owner," and reminded him that next time someone tried to flirt with him, he should show them the message. At that moment, the car arrived, and Sichong held his girlfriend tightly in his arms. He reminded himself that he couldn't let Wei Wei down over a single slanderous remark. At the stadium, Sichong encountered a female athlete who tried to get to know him. Following his girlfriend's instructions, he showed her the message written on his back. During the holiday, Wei Wei had to wait until her parents went to bed before she could answer Sichong's calls. Missing Wei Wei, Sichong, for the first time, wished the training session would end. Wei Wei encouraged her boyfriend to stay persistent and reminded him not to get involved with the female athletes. Sichong replied that he wore the jacket with the message she had written every day, so no one dared to approach him. Suddenly, Wei Wei's parents burst in, thinking there was a thief in the study room. Finally, Sichong was allowed to use his phone freely during the holiday. He didn't hesitate to post on social media about how much he missed Wei Wei. Meanwhile, Wei Wei counted the days, eagerly awaiting her boyfriend's return. At the school gate, she only encountered Ha Rui, who told her that Sichong was being held up at the training center. Worried, she immediately sent him a message. Suddenly, Sichong pulled Wei Wei into his arms, apologizing for not replying to her messages and holding her tightly. At the cafeteria, he explained that someone had accused him of using performance-enhancing drugs during the selection trials. He was waiting for a test to clear up the rumor. At that moment, he received threatening messages from an unknown number. The other party demanded that he skip the drug test. Sichong dismissed the messages as unreliable and didn't pay them much attention. On the way to the hospital, he secretly planned a date with Wei Wei. He stole a kiss on her cheek and intertwined his hand with hers. While waiting for the test, Sichong received another message that visibly changed his expression. Using the excuse that the provincial team had switched hospitals for testing, he decided to take Wei Wei home first. Arriving at his girlfriend's home, Sichong felt that their relationship was progressing quickly. Wei Wei explained that she was worried he wasn't eating properly while training, so she had planned to cook a nice meal for him while her parents were out. As Sichong checked his messages, he realized that the strange number had sent a video of Wei Wei zapping the pervert who had threatened him not to take the drug test. Wei Wei carried the dishes over, which looked quite appetizing. She was proud to have inherited her cooking talent from her father, but the taste surprised Sichong. He tried to compliment the food and quickly drank a full glass of water while she went to get another dish. Unexpectedly, Wei Wei assumed that athletes usually eat a lot, so she had prepared as many as 4 dishes. Sichong pretended he couldn't finish all the food and asked to take some home. Wei Wei, however, urged him to eat it while it was hot, promising that she would cook for him regularly. When Sichong looked at his girlfriend's graduation photos, he noticed that Wei Wei wasn't in any group pictures. She explained that after transferring schools, she didn't dare interact with her classmates, so she only had an individual graduation portrait. Sichong felt sad knowing she had missed out on so much, but Wei Wei considered herself lucky, as her electrical ability had ultimately led her to meet him. Back home, Sichong's mother questioned him about why he hadn't taken the drug test. She had just heard from Coach Yuni that the provincial team would expel him if the matter wasn't clarified. Sichong insisted that he had not used any performance-enhancing drugs. His father trusted him, but the provincial team still required concrete proof. Returning to school, Sichong went to the library to meet his girlfriend. Wei Wei pouted, upset that he hadn't answered her calls. Sensing that he was hiding something from her, Sichong comforted his girlfriend, telling her not to overthink things, as he would retake the drug test in a few days. Mrs. Mai arranged to meet Wei Wei and asked her to persuade Sichong to take the test. She explained that Coach Yuni had confirmed the provincial team hadn't changed hospitals. Unable to reach Sichong by phone, Wei Wei went to ask Bang Pai. He explained that Sichong had come to see him that morning. Sichong had assumed that Bang Pai had sent the video of Wei Wei zapping the pervert as revenge, but Bang Pai clarified that he had known Wei Wei since high school and would never hurt her. He also worried that if the video were leaked, it could seriously affect Wei Wei. Sichong decided to give up swimming, realizing that life offered him many other choices. However, if Wei Wei's video were leaked, she would face serious backlash. Swimming had been Sichong's personal dream, but Wei Wei's life represented their shared future. No matter what happened, Sichong would always choose Wei Wei. Bang Pai agreed to help him investigate the anonymous phone number. In the end, he finally admitted defeat to Sichong, having accomplished what Bang Pai couldn't. Miss May approached Sichong, reminding him of the serious seriousness of the cheating allegation. Coach Yuni believed that Sichong hadn't done anything forbidden. Both Miss May and the school trusted Sichong's integrity, but he still needed to take the test to clarify matters for the provincial team. At that moment, Wei Wei ran up and vowed that she would prove Sichong's innocence. Angry that he had hidden things from her and even abandoned his dream for her, she confronted him. Sichong expressed how important she truly was to him and promised that he would find a lead within 3 days. The two of them went to the security office, where Sichong inquired whether anyone had come to request the surveillance footage. The guard recalled that a male student who had previously accompanied Sichong had come by, asking to extract footage from a deserted section of the campus. When Wei Wei returned to the dormitory, she wondered whether anyone else, besides Junjun, had encountered the pervert that night. Junjun recounted that after hearing Wei Wei's scream, Harui was the first to rush over. At the same time, Beng Pai discovered that the phone number sending threats to Sichong had been purchased at a convenience store near Southern University. He also learned that a member of the team had reported Sichong. The culprit had instructed him not to take the drug test, aiming to eliminate Sichong from the provincial team. Beng Pai suspected that Harui was the most likely person to do this. Yet, Sichong still trusted that his close friend would never betray him. Back at the dormitory, Sichong called the anonymous number, but unexpectedly heard a phone vibrating in Harui's desk drawer. To his surprise, this confirmed Beng Pai's suspicion. Sichong confronted his close friend, demanding an explanation and wanting to know what he had done wrong. Harui admitted that he had long known about Wei Wei's electrically charged body. He had intended to exploit this weakness to defeat Sichong, reasoning that even with 10 hours of training a day, he could never surpass a prodigy. Sichong believes that his best friend's dislike for him should not involve Wei Wei. Harui insists that she is his final card. In a moment of lost control, Sichong punches his best friend squarely in the face. Ding Yi rushes in just in time to stop him. Not long after, the entire group is summoned. Ding Yi trusts that Sichong did not cheat in the competition. He also suspects that Harui has discovered Sichong's weakness. Wei Wei tries to reveal the truth, but Sichong quickly pulls her away. He knows she is worried, yet he does not want his girlfriend to take risks for him. Sichong urges her to protect herself, promising that they will face everything together. Wei Wei goes to the hospital and agrees to try the experimental therapy. The doctor explains that they will use a high-voltage therapeutic device to regulate her heart rate. Since this is a new experimental method, the risks cannot yet be fully assessed. The doctor advises Wei Wei to stabilize her heart with medication first, before considering the experimental therapy. Diligently, Wei Wei takes the medication to control the electrical flow, ensuring that Harui cannot threaten Sichong. She runs a few laps to raise her heart rate. She sneaks over to touch the vending machine, but the electricity in her body is still strong enough to shut it down. Unexpectedly, the group of friends standing behind the door witnesses this unusual phenomenon firsthand. Junjun is waiting for Harui outside the dormitory, and she stammers, unable to speak. Harui assumes that Sichong has family backing him, but in reality, he has nothing except his swimming skills. Junjun believes that family circumstances are irrelevant. Harui used underhanded means to achieve his goal, which feels unfair to Sichong. Seeing Junjun worry about Sichong, Harui grows irritated and walks away. The next day, the school forum reports that Sichong's alleged cheating in the competition involves Wei Wei. Everyone dismisses all of Sichong's achievements and even mocks Wei Wei for bringing misfortune to her boyfriend. Sichong chases after Wei Wei across the schoolyard. He apologizes for failing to protect her. Wei Wei, in turn, wants to shield Sichong. Despite Harui having made the video public, she reflects that if her body didn't carry electricity, things might have turned out differently. Sichong would not have to face so many troubles. He comforts his girlfriend and promises to undergo the tests ahead of schedule. Wei Wei goes to see Dr. Zhang because she wants to try the experimental therapy. Even though the medication prescribed by the doctor has no effect, she risks everything for a chance to live like a normal person. During the experiment, Wei Wei recalls a phone call with Sichong, in which he mentioned that he would ask the provincial team for a little extra time for the tests. If that doesn't work out, he could become a swimming coach. For Sichong, what matters most is that both of them remain safe. Wei Wei struggles back to the dormitory and collapses to the ground. When she regains consciousness, she finds Sichong lying beside her. He asks what exactly has happened. Wei Wei feels as if her body has lost all vitality. Unexpectedly, her parents rush in, having overheard that the electricity in their daughter's body has disappeared. Wei Wei explains that she underwent Dr. Zhang's experimental therapy. Her father calls Sichong outside to talk. Once outside, he nervously confesses that he likes Wei Wei. Wei Wei's father believes the two should focus on their studies. Before he can finish his sentence, his wife drags him into the kitchen to start cooking. Si-chong arrives at the hospital late and has to wait until the next day for his tests. On top of that, he needs to obtain an additional examination form from the school. The two wait for a long time, but no buses arrive and they cannot call a ride. Concerned that Wei Wei might catch a cold, Si-chong takes her to find a temporary place to rest. At a nearby hotel, he tries to book 2 single rooms, but the staff informs him that only 1 room is left. Seeing the double bed, Wei Wei feels embarrassed and decides to take a shower first. Si-chong sits tensely, waiting for her to come out. When he sees her about to dry her hair, he quickly steps in to help. The sound of the hairdryer hums steadily, but all she can hear is the rapid beating of her own heart. Hearing from the receptionist that someone has just checked out, Si-chong rushes to the newly available room. The next day, when Si-chong meets Mei, he asks for the additional examination form. She apologizes, explaining that the deadline for the test has already passed. The provincial team removes Si-chong from the roster, but Coach Yuni firmly stands by his student. As a result, the school decides to issue only a warning. Seeing his girlfriend blame herself, Si-chong admits that swimming used to be very important to him. But after meeting Wei Wei, he realizes that life holds many other colors. Whether or not Wei Wei has electricity, she remains the cutest Pikachu in his eyes. Wei Wei knows that Wu Xin's father works as a manager in the sports world, so she asks him for advice on how to save Si-chong's situation. Mr. Zhang, hearing that the provincial team fears Si-chong might gain unfair entry into the training camp, suggests that she find someone eloquent and reputable, someone who has no ties to Si-chong's family. The next morning, Han Yang brings the provincial team leaders to Southern University. They decide to hold a supplementary selection on the condition that both candidates undergo drug testing. As the competition time approaches, Ha Rui still hasn't arrived at the pool. Si-chong goes into the locker room to look for him, only to find a letter left on a chair. In the letter, Ha Rui apologizes to Si-chong and admits that from the very beginning he had already lost to him. On the school grounds, Si-chong notices his girlfriend smiling to herself, a gentle grin lighting up her face. He assumes she must be feeling content to have such a handsome boyfriend by her side. Curious, Si-chong asks if there is anything she still wishes to do but has not yet tried. Wei Wei quietly confesses that she doesn't know how to swim. Amused, Si-chong bursts into laughter and promises that he will be the one to teach her. At the pool, Wei Wei timidly leaps into the water and clings tightly to Si-chong. He smiles reassuringly, promising never to let go of her hand. After the swimming lesson, Wei Wei is surprised to realize that she can finally live like an ordinary person. In the past, she had always feared entering the water, worried that her electrified body would put her in danger. Now, with newfound courage, she listens as Si-chong gently reminds her to start making plans for their future together. Overcome with happiness, Wei Wei leans in and kisses him. The next day, the school posts an announcement declaring that Si-chong has officially joined the provincial team thanks to his outstanding performance. Just then, Junjun spots Ha Rui dragging his suitcase and hurries after him. She pleads with him to apologize to Si-chong, but Ha Rui believes that being denied forgiveness is the most fitting punishment. The revelation of Wei Wei's secret, that her body carries electricity, becomes another burden Si-chong has to bear. Junjun argues that Ha Rui has no right to ruin someone else's life. If he insists on being stubborn, then there is no need for the two of them to ever meet again. Junjun runs after Ha Rui and tells him that as long as he admits his mistakes, she will be willing to forgive him. She thanks him for being the first person who ever tried to truly understand her. Ha Rui urges her to head back first, asking for some quiet time to reflect on the path that lies ahead. Ha Rui meets Si-chong and reveals that he has just completed the paperwork to withdraw from school. He assures him that Wei Wei's secret will remain safe and never be exposed. Si-chong recalls the first time he met his friend, a quiet and disciplined young man. Even though his results in the preliminary rounds were not outstanding, Ha Rui confidently declared that he would strive for the national championship. From that moment on, Si-chong regarded him as a true rival. Later, the two decide to face each other in a serious match, witnessed by their close friends. The battle between Si-chong and Ha Rui is exhilarating, yet at this point, victory or defeat no longer matters to either of them. After bidding farewell to Ha Rui, Ding Yi gathers the group and brings them to Si-chong's house. There, Wei Wei experiences drinking alcohol for the very first time. In the past, Wei Wei had always feared that getting drunk might make her lose control and act recklessly, but Si-chong reassures her, telling her to feel free to do whatever she desires from now on, because he will always be by her side. Lin Bai presents Si-chong with a knee patch developed by his own family's company. When Wei Wei notices a familiar bag, she realizes it was Wu Xin who brought it to Lin Bai. Together, the group raises their glasses, wishing for Si-chong to soon claim his victory. After a night of drinking, Si-chong opens his eyes to find his girlfriend lying beside him. He slowly leans in and kisses her, her, but Wei Wei stirs awake, leaving him flustered. Heading downstairs, he realizes their friends are gone, with only a note reminding him to seize the chance to be with her. When Wei Wei prepares to return to school, Si-chong insists she stay for breakfast. He steps into the kitchen, eager to show off his cooking skills, and let her have a taste. During the meal, Wei Wei gives him a small gift, wishing him success in joining the provincial team. As Si-chong gently touches her hand, he is startled by a sudden spark, as if electrified. Wei Wei quickly explains it is nothing more than static electricity. Si-chong then glances at the Pikachu watch before him. He vows to carry the backpack with him all day, setting it aside only during training. When she returns home, Wei Wei is overcome with pain, her entire body feeling as though it is being shocked by electricity. Her mother notices the unusual symptoms and urgently calls her husband to rush Wei Wei to the hospital. There, the doctor asks if she has used any other methods to discharge the electricity from her body. Wei Wei admits that she already took the entire box of medicine he had prescribed. Dr. Zhang explains that in the past, her heartbeat determined her ability to generate electricity, but the latest test results reveal that the current within her body is now dangerously unstable. He decides to prescribe a sedative for the next 24 hours, which will leave her drowsy. He also advises the family to find a quiet, secluded place where Wei Wei can recover in peace for about half a year. Before joining the provincial team, Si-chong comes to pick Wei Wei up for a camping trip. She playfully claims that she had just heard thunder, which is why she is already wearing a raincoat. Proudly, he shows off the food and camping gear he has prepared. Si-chong asks for a kiss as his reward, but quickly pulls back when her parents suddenly appear. Wei Wei's mother reminds them both to stay safe. Upon arriving at the campsite, Wei Wei hides her condition, not wanting Si-chong to worry. She hopes to spend this final day together filled with joy before they must part ways. She takes him to feed the camels, but accidentally sends a shock through his hand. Flustered, Wei Wei quickly excuses herself, claiming it was only static from touching her hair. That night, Si-chong still feels a burning pain in his wrist, but he hides it from Wei Wei, afraid she might worry. Pulling her into his arms, he opens his heart to her. He admits that at first he thought it was only the electric shocks that drew him to her, but later realized he kept seeking out excuses to be shocked just for the chance to be near her. He never imagined that someone as popular as himself, a star of the school, would struggle so much just to win the heart of his very own Pikachu. Inside the tent, Wei Wei quietly gazes at Si-chong's face as he sleeps. When he stirs awake, he hurriedly pulls the blanket over her. Wei Wei embraces him, thanking him for being by her side. Overcome with emotion, she kisses him, and Si-chong, filled with joy, holds her tightly in his arms. When they arrive at her doorstep, Wei Wei throws her arms around Si-chong. Through tears, she promises to cheer for him at the upcoming international student competition. Yet in her heart, she feels a pang of regret, uncertain of when she will be able to see him again. A few days after joining the provincial swimming team, Si-chong still finds himself unable to reach Wei Wei. With the competition schedule pressing, even the coach rarely has time to answer calls. At the International Student Swimming Championship, Si-chong waits outside the gate, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. Daxi arrives to inform him that he is tied up with family matters and cannot stay. As expected, Si-chong pulls far ahead of his opponents and triumphantly claims the 7th gold medal of his swimming career. After training, Si-chong asks his mother to take him to Wei Wei's house. Mrs. Mai gladly agrees, but when they arrive, he is met with a sign announcing the temporary closure of the bookstore. Unable to reach Wei Wei by phone, he borrows his mother's car to continue searching for her. Back at the dormitory, Si-chong asks Ding Yi what has happened to Wei Wei. Ding Yi takes him to see Daxi, but she too has no idea where Wei Wei has moved. Daxi recalls that even before Si-chong joined the provincial team, Wei Wei had already begun showing unusual symptoms. Wei Wei can no longer control the electricity surging through her body. She sends a farewell message, asking Daxi not to come looking for her. Si-chong returns to Wei Wei's doorstep, weighed down by sorrow at the thought of her enduring everything alone. Scrolling through their chat history, he discovers that she once loved visiting her relative's old flower shop on Nanshao Road. Determined to find her, he searches through flower shops one by one, until at last, he finally comes face to face with Wei Wei. When Wei Wei sees Si-chong, she hurriedly slams the door shut, refusing to face him. As he stubbornly pushes against it, she shouts that she no longer loves him. Hurt and resentful, Wei Wei accuses him of not being there when she was tormented by the pain of the electricity within her. At last, she proposes that they break up. Choked with emotion, Si-chong cannot bring himself to say a single word to stop her. At that very moment, Coach Uni calls to remind Si-chong that he must return to training on schedule. That night, when Wei Wei opens the door, she sees Si-chong holding sparklers in his hands. He recalls the moment she once told him she would forgive every imperfection imperfection he had. Wei Wei quietly shares that the doctors still haven't been able to bring the electricity in her body under control. She tells him she doesn't want her boyfriend to spend a lifetime living in fear and worry, but Sichong, defying everything, silences her with a kiss that conveys all the words he cannot say. 3 years later, Wu Xin brings bubble tea to her boyfriend, Lin Bai. She notices some juniors watching a live-streamed interview with Sichong. In it, he shares that what he wants to do after the match is propose to his girlfriend. Sichong entrusts Doxy with a treasure map to deliver to Wei Wei. Just then, Ding Yi rushes over to congratulate him, but mostly, he is there to pick up his girlfriend after work. Outside, Haori waits to see Sichong. He explains that he is now pursuing a career in medicine and asks about Junjun. Sichong tells him that she has just taken over her family's company. Handing him her phone number, he encourages his old friend to seize the chance. Following the treasure map, Wei Wei arrives at an aquarium. Just then, Sichong calls to ask how her master's exam went. Hearing that she placed first, he immediately declares that he wants to recruit her as his personal rehabilitation doctor. He urges her to keep following the clues, and there, beneath the shimmering water before her eyes, Sichong appears as a diver, a living confession of his love. He steps forward and presents her with a Pikachu orb, inside of which lies the ring he had long prepared. To him, this feels like the most certain choice he has ever made in his life. Wei Wei immediately says yes to his proposal. Without hesitation, Sichong kneels down and slips the ring onto the ring finger of the woman he loves most. Pulling her into his arms, he kisses her deeply. At last, the Pikachu girl finds her happy ending with the swimming prince. He thanks everyone for watching and bids them farewell until next time.